Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. I just want to highlight that it is 1344. Our assigned place of duty was at 1330, whence I showed up into the Zoom call at
Whence?
1330. Actually, I showed up because to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late is to be left behind. I showed up at 1325, received a text from you at 1335 asking where I was. And my response was my assigned place of duty, sir. Certain things should translate and you should carry them forward into civilian life as a veteran.
Yeah, but you know what? There was a whole lot of other conversation before that about you going and doing stuff and things, and you didn't know if you're gonna be back in time, and you let me know.
Nope,
And
nope,
hmm
nope. None of that took place. None of that took place. You said 1330. I said, yes, sir. No other conversation. You gave me the assignment. I executed
there's a lot of assumptions
on
in
your part,
there.
potentially.
Maybe potentially your part, but
Here's a safe assumption. Here's a safe assumption. You assign a place of duty and a time, I'm going to be there.
eh,
Unless I'm not.
unless you're not.
Unless I'm not.
Hey,
But that's
man,
not what
this
happened today.
uh this episode is gonna be coming out on Friday, and then Saturday is Veterans Day. So happy Veterans Day to all of our listeners who are military veteran. Um, it's been a year and some change since we got out, and it's been an interesting journey this last year and some change. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. No, super interesting. And we wanted to use today as almost like a lessons learned, an AAR, if you will.
That's after action
Uh,
report for those
that is
non
that is.
non military type.
Here's the deal. If you know, you know. Okay. If you know, you know. And I think this what we're going to talk about is also applicable to anybody going through a transition. It just happens that a military transition is a significant transition. It goes a lot of times. I'm not going to suggest that a lot of folks aren't identified by their job and that it's a big part of who they are. I would never suggest that, but I would also say that I think the military is a bit unique in that from everything from the way you dress to the language you use, the AARs and the after actions, the lessons learned, the 1330s, and to be early is to be on time, is to be late, right? Like all these different things. There's a language, there's a culture, there's an identity, and the military transition is significant. And so the from an active duty or reservist or whatever your status is to a veteran tends to be a pretty daunting process, and it can be something that's very significant. The transition out of that. And so for each of us, we both talked about this in the past, but a lot of vets, there's a couple things that are working against us. And I'm not saying that as a victim. I'm saying a lot of vets are very, self-reliant. They're driven. We oftentimes believe the lie that if I don't have it figured out, then there's something wrong with me. I should have all my I's crossed and my T's dotted. Like these are all things that should be because I'm a hard charging, highly motivated military individual that should have my stuff in one sock, right? Um, and one of the things that you and I that we've discussed quite often is that we thought we had businesses in place. We had discussed, done a lot of joined masterminds, done a lot of introspection, done a lot of work to prepare to get out, and we thought we had a path figured out. What I personally experienced was anxiety. Never experienced anxiety in the past. Wasn't something that I was familiar with. So I had gone through some of that, some identity loss and purpose loss, all these different things I personally experienced were not things that I anticipated. They were things that I thought I had heard about them. I thought I had a mitigation plan in place to deal with all these things, and I was sorely mistaken. And for me, what would have and you and I did pretty good job with reaching out to folks, but I think where I personally probably failed a bit is I was more reaching out to peers that were going through it with me
Yeah.
instead of reaching out to mentors who had successfully transitioned. Like if I would have been thinking about this differently, I would have reached out to guys that we talk to now, right? Like I would have reached out to like Corey Knopp, for example, and been like, hey man, you transitioned 10 years ago. You're doing the sales thing. You have an entrepreneurial thing. Like, talk to me about how, what can I expect? And instead, you and I were going through it together, and we thought that was going to be enough. And that was a lot. That was great. And I would recommend everybody plug in. But I should have been looking at people who had already done it, who were solidly in the veteran category, and not done it alone, not thinking that you and I could figure it out as we went, because we do a lot. We do that with our businesses. We do that a lot.
Yeah.
But I should have gone to somebody who had, no kidding, like the bona fides to help me through it. And I should have sought that connection, that mentorship, and really been intentional with acknowledging, hey, I cannot anticipate. I've never done this before. So I can't really anticipate what it's going to be like. So I should probably, get a community of folks that can really help me walk through this. That's one big lesson learned for me is effectively I did the transition from a knowledge standpoint. I did it alone. I did it with you, but I did it alone in that I didn't have a guide to be like, hey, these are the landmines. And even more to the point, a lot of vets, especially young enlisted folks, they're relying on their command and their senior enlisted and their officers to tell them and help them through a transition, mind you, that none of those senior enlisted or officers have gone through. So
Isn't
they
that
can't
funny?
really help you with it. It is crazy. And I did that a little bit too. Just, potentially looked at some higher ranks, but those individuals in those higher ranks have been even more indoctrinated and part of the military, and even have less, are further removed from when they were last a civilian. So it's just an interesting thing that I think we need to be very, very intentional and humble ourselves to be like, I need help. And that's okay, because there are so many vets out there, now you and I included, that would absolutely love to help and talk to anybody transitioning.
Yeah, man. One of the things that you and I have both kind of put on our hearts to do is to be that veteran who kind of opposite reaches out to veterans that are in the midst of that transition or have it coming up, within the next year or so. I've been, intentionally searching on LinkedIn for people that have in their title transitioning military, transitioning officer, transitioning Navy, whatever that is, and reaching out and just offering, just 30 minutes to jump on a phone call and talk about some of the lessons learned. And I know the individuals that have received that message, that phone call, it's been helpful to them, because there are, some of the things that we have learned that aren't talked about. And it's not talked about in the transition assistance program, the TAP class. It's not talked about from the active duty military that are still that are trying to help with you in your transition. And it's been eye-opening, because a lot of the focus on leaving the military is just like where you're going to get your next paycheck, and how you get your disability and medical and insurance and all these, checklist type items. But some of the stuff that really hit us was, again, that stuff that's not talked about very much. And so, what did you say, David? You looked it up. How many people are leaving the military every single year?
Yeah, I mean, the stat I looked up quick was I think it was like 200,000 servicemen and women separated from active duty across the military every year. So if you break that down, simple math, maybe not that simple, but it's approximately 1,300 people a day are returning to civilian life.
So, I mean, we're close to that listenership number, right now. Like we're close to having that amount of listeners.
200,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We have that. We're close to that, but kidding. But so, we're never going to reach all of those people. Right. But, hopefully this podcast can help those that do listen to this show about the transition. So let's get into it. One of the things that you and I both really saw was a lesson learned was just the idea of purpose. And in the military, a purpose is given to you from day one, right? You have a mission and you have a purpose to go and serve your country every single day. And when you leave the military, the day you leave, that purpose goes away. And if you haven't been intentional with seeking out a new purpose and taking the time to dive into that purpose, it's going to be lost very quickly. And oftentimes a paycheck, a job, a W-2 salary um, isn't going to fulfill that for you. And so you really have to be intentional about reflecting and finding purpose in your life. And, think about what is going to excite you every single day to wake up and go do.
Well, yeah, and the underlying effort there, which I would encourage everybody to do, is um is a bit of self-reflection, evaluation. Give yourself some capacity to most of the vets that I've talked to that are transitioning, whether they're younger, they didn't do a full 20 years, or whether they're transitioning and they retired. And even I spoke to a couple senior guys, admirals, as they're transitioning. And what I found to be pretty fascinating is pretty much across the board, none of them really knew when you're asking, hey, what is it? Not what do you want to do, but why do you want to do it? Right. Like, well, I'm looking at this, I got an interview here. I got this recruiters pushing me here. Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's great. It's beautiful. Awesome. Why? Like, why do you want to do that? I don't know. But
Yeah.
it sounded good. Okay. Well, I think for all of us should take the time to really reflect and figure out what it is we want to do. You talk about purpose, like that's not something that's just easily, the military gives you some of that. And within it, and it's incumbent in the mission, but sometimes if you really think about it, like it took, when I went to Iraq, for example, I remember it very specifically when I went, and I was there for a little bit and I kind of saw the lay of the land. I was like, interesting. I am actually not a supporter of what we're doing here, or why we're doing it, because the mission and the purpose was unclear. And to this day, I maintain that. But before I went, that's not something I was just like, yeah, we're fighting. It's part of the thing. It's what we do. And like, let's go, like, giddy up. I still had that attitude, right? Like, this is where they sent me. And
Yeah.
most military members will tell you they're fighting for their brothers and sisters next to them, right? So like some of the political stuff goes away. But as you step back and reflect, the only reason I bring that up is I was like, oh, that's really interesting. When I put some critical thought to this, when I do some research, when I look at this, like, I actually am not a supporter of the national strategy perspective, or strategy, if you want to call it that, of why we're here. And I started digging in. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. It just was really interesting. It's not like I was, going off the deep, oh, I'm not going to obey my whatever. Like, it wasn't any of that. It just was more of a self-awareness to be like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing here? What's my goal? What's my objective? And what do I want to achieve while here? And add context to it. Right. Well, I think even in the military, a lot of times we may have a strong sense of purpose and mission, because I still had a strong sense of purpose and mission there before and after that realization. But I was just more clear. I was more clear on my why, and it really helped me formulate why. And I really, to be quite honest, I enjoyed that deployment quite a bit. But as you dig into these things, you can kind of come to the realization that, oh man, maybe I drank the Kool-Aid, which is fine. That's okay. Drinking the Kool-Aid is fine, but just know you're drinking Kool-Aid. Well, as you transition out, that Kool-Aid, that Kool-Aid goes away, and somebody else will try to replace the Kool-Aid, maybe with some lemonade, maybe with some civilian flavored something,
Yeah.
and you can easily go back into that. And all I'm trying to suggest is most of us don't take the time to be clear, so it's very hard for us to answer the why question. And some people go to the grave not answering that question,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so it's critical to be able to address that and know, and maybe it is just, I have to get a job because I have to pay the bills. I have a baby on the way. Like, that has to happen. Cool. Like that's great. As long as you know with your eyes wide open exactly why you're doing what you're doing, and you don't try to deceive yourself in some way, like you're clear on it. And that's one of the big things we talk about with those are conversations I have with transitioning vets. I'm like, hey man, like, let's just dig into this. Not that it should change anything. I'm not trying to change your view or your actions, but let's just understand why. Let's just understand why we're doing it, right?
Well, yeah,
And
and
that could open the door to something you never considered and change the trajectory of your life. That's the other side of that, right? Like it did for us.
yeah, and another thought is your purpose might not have anything to do with actually making money. Like, your job could be one thing, it's going to pay the bills to keep their lights on and your family fed, but maybe your purpose has nothing to do with your actual job, with actual, making money. Maybe it's something completely different. So, put that into the equation too.
Well, what's the happiness book? I'm brain farting it. What's that book called? The actual title of the book, The Happiness Project, but the book is called The Good Life.
The Good
The
Life.
Good Life. In that book, what's fascinating is when they went with these, it's in the third generation now, but the people that were making the most money were often the least happy.
Yeah.
And the one, I think they called him Leo or Leonardo. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a teacher. He was a teacher, and he was like, they used him as like the standard of happiness. And everybody knows what teachers make. Teachers have never really been like an upper tier level from the amount of money they make ever, right? And so
Right.
it wasn't the money, it was something else. And that could be, you could find that you could take half, maybe a fraction of the amount of money that you potentially could make if you just pursued money, but multiply to the 10th, 100th degree the amount of happiness you can achieve because you're living in a purpose, like how you're created to be. Because the money thing, man, like the money, I've not met a lot of folks that are just like, yeah, man, when I hit that other zero, then I was like, yes, I'm
Yeah.
super duper happy. Like I've not met that person yet. And we know a
Right.
lot of multimillionaires, right?
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that we talk a lot about when we're having these calls is finding a tribe. In the military, again, you have a tribe that's given to you. That you enter the military, you're in a command, you're in a squadron, you deploy with people, you go into harm's way, you're challenged with other people, and there's an immediate bond and connection there. There's a tribe. You move from duty station to duty station. There's a wives group. There's a wardroom. Your friends become the friends that you are in service with. But the day you leave the military, if you're not intentional with maintaining those relationships or creating new relationships locally in person, um, you're gonna you're gonna miss something really, really big that you haven't really ever thought about because it's just been given to you for so long. So you have to be intentional about inserting yourself into a tribe, inserting yourself into a group of people, of like-minded individuals that can hold you accountable, that can hold you up, and be there for you along the journey.
Yeah, and everybody is worried about their own stuff. So very rare is the person, I shouldn't say nobody, but very rare is a person that's going to intentionally seek you out, right?
Right.
Because you are in the sea of 200,000 people that are transitioning. We're obviously specifically with the military. You're in a sea of people. And so this is a very individual, the government, I will say the government does the best they can with, but you're talking about serious numbers, thousands a day,
Yeah.
over 1,000 a day. Those are serious numbers. And so what do you really expect them to do effectively with that? Right. And so it is very much incumbent on you to be somebody who seeks out that tribe. And now you and I like are seeking out folks, and we're trying to be, and I would say to all of our civilian listeners, like you are uniquely suited. If it's on your heart and it's passionate, it's a passion of yours to help vets, you're uniquely suited to be a great mentor because you are a civilian. You've been
Or
living
just a
the
friend.
civilian life. Yeah, right. Just you could be a friend. You can also be like in the field that this person wants to be in. You can offer so much as a civilian, but as the vet, you have to seek these people out, right? You have to seek them out. And I hate to say it, man. LinkedIn, I tell you, I get hit up by more helping transitioning veterans get life insurance, helping transitioning veterans, dude. All they want to do is sell stuff, which is it kind of kills me because I know when I
Yeah.
reach out to a vet that they're thinking I'm going to sell them something.
Yeah.
And I just want to be a resource for them, right? Like, hey, dude, literally, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I run a men's group. You're a woman, so like, I'm literally trying not to sell you anything. I just want to be a resource for you, right? And unfortunately, there's not more people like that. But I'm just saying not more people like us, but I'm just saying most of the transitioning are trying to, there's some kind of agenda thing that's tied to at least the people hitting me up. But what I would say is just try to add value as a veteran. The veterans who've been out, try to add value to those who are seeking it. But those of you guys getting out, those of you gals getting out, Like, you have to be intentional. You have to put your pride away. You have to reach out to somebody. Reach out on LinkedIn. You could say transition vets. You could say, just look up veterans and just reach out to somebody that piques your interest. I would be shocked if you reached out to a vet business owner in a field that you're interested in, and they're like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I would be shocked. I'd be shocked. And so you have to do that too, right? You have to be willing to put yourself out there. But I promise you, if you do that, the benefits that you can reap and potentially the career that you can embark on because you did that are limitless. And it's something that is on each of us to also do for ourselves. We're not victims. We're veterans, right? We're
Yeah.
warriors. Like, there's no victims here. Reach out and seek those people that you want to be like.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does that look like? And it could be tons of different forms and formats. That could be, reaching out to individual people and just asking if they wanted to, connect and grab lunch once a week, once a month, whatever that looks like. Joining a small group at your church, joining a sports league, right? Like, a men's soccer league, or joining, jujitsu, or like whatever that is, right? Try to find a local in-person tribe that you can connect with, have conversations with, you know, high fives, fist bumps and 20-second hugs. Like, find those people in your life that you can have regular interaction with, that can come alongside you and help. Super important. And again, like David said, like, if you're not intentional with it, no one's going to come and like seek you out. So you have to find that. Um, Last thing, what you got?
Yeah, I just think you should also take an assessment of your mindset, right? Like, I'll tell you, it is an exciting thing to consider new prospects and to consider, a point, a dot to life, right? Like, what's next? What's the next phase? What can I take an assessment of your skills, right? Like, for us military guys and gals, it's so hard for us to acknowledge, like, I'm really good at organization. I'm an excellent leader. I'm a this, that, the other. I mean, I'm not talking about myself, because clearly I started with, I'm really good at organization. And that's
Yeah.
that maybe I may struggle with that slightly. But take an assessment and be confident in it. You gain some significant knowledge, experience in the military, and people want that. People want to hear your stories. They want to be able to leverage your expertise, and you can be an asset to really, I believe you can be an asset to any organization or any business you start or whatever it is you choose to do. You could be an asset. But if you don't know you're an asset, it makes it very hard for you to market yourself and to say, hey, I'm really good at these things. And let me just, I just want to assure you, it is okay to acknowledge the things that you're really good at. And I would offer that the exercise to figure out what you're really good at is always worthwhile as well, because then you can live in that gifting. You can seek opportunities that are perfectly suited for you to immediately go in and make an impact. And so, what does that look like? I mean, it looks like a number of things. Take a personality to take multiple personality tests, right? Like,
Yeah.
do your Enneagram, do your DISC profile, do your Myers-Briggs, do these things if you're struggling to kind of understand where you're at. Make an assessment. Strengths finders, like, invest in yourself in some of these things, and have like these types and understand what they mean, and start to know yourself better. Because that's one thing about the military too, right? Like we wear uniforms. What's your style? Maybe you're like a purple suit with a pink bow tie and a big top hat. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what kind of guy you are, right? And that's cool. Like, be who you are. But it's hard. Sometimes we lose, especially the longer you've been in, you kind of lose some parts of yourself. Not bad. It's necessary, right? It's military. But recapturing and knowing yourself is a really critical part. And there's lots of ways you can do that. And again, like, Stu and I are completely happy to have a conversation. I mean, I routinely put my number on LinkedIn in a post. I'm like, dude, I'm not putting a fake number, right? Like, I'm putting my real number for a reason. If you're one of those 200,000 and you're kind of struggling, or you're not struggling, maybe you're thriving, but you just want more, you just want a little more, you just want a different perspective, like, reach out to somebody. If they're offering, take that offer. It's not a handout. I don't pity any veterans, right? It's just a resource to be somebody who somebody could talk to. And I don't even care if you're a vet. If you're not a vet and you're listening to this and you need to talk through something, you're transitioning, give Stu or I a call. I mean, if you call Stu, it's probably gonna be a boring conversation. You call me, it could be awesome. But like, just do it. Just reach out and like start making that effort to really get to push that ball forward and whatever that looks like. The more you know yourself, the better it is too to make connections. Because like I know there's certain guys I don't want to connect with because I just know that like there's probably nothing I could offer them. And I shouldn't say they can't offer me anything because everybody has something to offer, but it just helps you really target and refine that time.
Love it, my dude. Happy Veterans Day to all those listening. Thank you for your service. And reach out if you need anything. We've been through it, still going through it, have a lot of lessons learned, more than what we just talked about here. So if you're struggling, reach out. Do it.
And if you reach out soon, when this comes out, yesterday was Stuart's birthday. Happy early and belated birthday, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Super excited for you. 50, man, 50. Congratulations.
And I'm not there yet.
Oh, my bad. All right. Take some action. Easy steps. Do a search for whatever it is you're looking for. If it's vets you want to connect with, do a search for vets on LinkedIn. Super easy. You'll be overwhelmed with the number of people come up. Make a contact. It's so easy. Make a contact, connect with somebody, send them a note. Hey, love your stuff. Would love to jump on a call. I'm getting out in whatever. Can we chat? If the answer is no, please hit me up. Let me know who that vet is. I would love to reach out to them as well. Take some action.
See ya.